There's a lot of talk in this primary about new government benefits, such as student loan cancellation, free college, health care, and more. Do you think that Democrats have a responsibility to explain how they will pay for every proposal they make along those lines?
So I'm running for president to help advance meaningful solutions, including $1,000 a month for every American adult starting at age 18. Well, the freedom dividend, if you can imagine a country where everyone's getting $1,000 a month as a right of citizenship, it would make our families stronger and healthier, it would create millions of jobs in our communities, it would improve our mental health, would decrease our stress levels, would improve relationships, and we can very much make this happen. Thomas Paine was for this at the founding of the country. Martin Luther King fought for it.
Thomas Paine really said, let's give everybody $1,000?
Yeah, the citizens dividend. And more recently, Martin Luther King was fighting for this in 1967 and 1968, called it a guaranteed minimum income. And it was what he was fighting for when he was killed in 1968.
Where's the money come from?
Well, if you look up who are the big winners in this economy, it's companies like Amazon, trillion-dollar tech company that paid zero in taxes last year, and that's not unusual for them. They regularly pay zero in taxes. And so if you put a mechanism in place where the American people get a tiny slice of every Amazon sale, every Google search, every Uber mile, then we can pay for a $1,000 dividend for the American people, particularly because it would come into our hands and we'd spend it. It would just go through the economy over and over again.
Yes, you've warned that Democrats will lose in 2020 if they embrace socialism, as you put it. You were booed at the California Democratic Convention when you said that. Only one candidate on this stage, Senator Sanders, identifies himself as a democratic socialist. What are the policies or positions of your opponents that you think are veering towards socialism?
I've been shocked, Bill, when I go around the country, how working class Americans feel like the Democratic Party does not care about people like them, is not talking to them.
Right.
And when I was growing up, the Democratic Party was the party of the working class, the little guy or gal. We need to get back to that. I can't tell you how much credit Donald Trump got just for calling out the pain that many of these communities are in. And so if the Democratic Party stops condescending and says, look, we're here to actually work on solving your problems, we can go very, very far with many of the people who voted for Donald Trump.
Is this because of identity politics?
Well, so I'm the son of immigrants. I understand the impulse behind identity politics, but Democrats have to know that identity politics is a very poor way to approach winning national elections, and it's a very poor way to bring our country together. We have to enact solutions that will help all Americans. And when Martin Luther King championed a guaranteed minimum income in the 60s, which is almost exactly like my freedom dividend, he didn't do it for any subset of Americans. He did it for all Americans. And that's, again, how we move the country forward.
A lot of you have been talking tonight about these government health care plans that you've proposed in one form or another. This is
100%. I'm for a single payer Medicare for all. It makes no sense to have Americans more stressed out about paying for care than we are getting well. If we get sick or injured, or our kids get sick or injured, it's backwards, it's immoral. And I'll tell you, this is another thing where people are like, where are you going to get the money? Where are you going to get the money? We spend 18% of GDP on our healthcare, twice as much as other countries, to worse results. We have plenty of money. It's just the money's not on the public bottom line yet, but it should be. So I've been the CEO of a business, and I tell people very honestly, like, our healthcare system makes it harder to hire people. It makes it harder to treat people like full-time employees because you just want to turn them all into contractors and say, hey, you know, like,
that way
you're
just
just
healthcare, absolutely.
Yeah, it makes it harder to start a business. It makes it harder to change jobs. It's actually this giant impediment on our economic dynamism and growth. How many people out there have businesses that they might have started if our healthcare was covered by the public sector, which it should be?
Right.
So I'm for universal health care.
Yeah, they said in the future most people are going to be freelancers just because companies are trying to just hire contractors so they don't have to pay for health care.
Yeah, 94% of the new jobs created in this country since 2005 have been temporary gig or contract jobs. So that don't have health care benefits. So tying health care to your job makes less and less sense. And we just need to get with the program and evolve and say, look, your job and healthcare are unrelated.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of people don't want to take that jump because they know if they leave their 9 to 5, they lose healthcare and their family loses healthcare. So they don't want to take that jump to be an entrepreneur.
I'm going to tell you guys a true story. Like, I told my wife I was
as opposed to
everything else I said. It's all, no, but this is a true story. So I go to my wife and I say, hey, babe, I'm going to run for president. And her first question is, what are we going to do about healthcare?
She's like, you're going to leave your job?
You leave your job.
That's a true
Like,
story.
we have 2 kids.
On January 20th, 2021, if you are president, what specifically would you do with the thousands of people who try to reach the United States every day and want a better life through asylum?
I'm running for president because I'm focused on solving the problem that got Donald Trump elected in the first place in 2016. He's our president because we automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, all the swing states that he needed to win. And my friends in technology know we're about to do the same thing to millions of retail jobs, call center jobs, fast food jobs, truck driving jobs, and on and on. We have to wake America up to the fact that it is not immigrants that are causing these problems. It's not immigrants, am I right?
In the last 5 years, civil rights activists in our country have led a national debate over race and the criminal justice system. Your community of South Bend, Indiana, has recently been in uproar over an officer-involved shooting. The police force in South Bend is now 6% black in a city that is 26% black. Why has that not improved over your 2 terms as mayor?
Yeah, completely.
Does Andrew Yang have a black agenda? Do you have an agenda specifically for black people?
Well, a lot of it overlaps with my overall agenda because I think that the freedom dividend and universal health care would go a long way. But I'm for getting rid of private prisons. I think it makes no sense to have prisons that have a profit motivation.
Why do y'all think all black people in jail?
I mean, again, that affects everyone.
Yeah.
I'm for dramatically increasing the federal allotment to HBCUs. Because the problem with education right now is it's become a business. And so what happens is schools end up benefiting by catering to the affluent because they'll donate more money and they can pay full freight and the rest of it. And so you have these HBCUs that have an incredible historical mission, have been shown to elevate hundreds of thousands of African Americans, but because they don't have these crazy endowments that some of the rich schools do, that they're struggling. Mm-hmm. And so the federal government can help shore that up. So this is the beauty of the freedom dividend, man, because like money follows money. Like if you have African American communities where everyone's getting $12,000 a year, then all of a sudden the businesses in that community start being more lucrative and profitable. And then if I'm a lender, I'm like, heck yes, you want a loan? Like sign me up. And then they'll start investing in those communities because the market will drive them in that direction. And if that doesn't work, then we'll do more. But I think the best way we can empower African American businesses to put money into the hands of African Americans. I read Ta-Nehisi Coates, and I 100% agree with the moral case for reparations. This country was built on the backs of slaves, and there's no two ways about it. So to me, the question is, what can we get done? There's nothing that we can do as a society that would actually undo that harm or make that right. There is no redoing history. But the path forward, to me, if we put this dividend in place, and at least it starts strengthening communities, and then we can take real steps forward towards hopefully, again, can't make things right, but hopefully you can start moving things in the right direction.
Among this field of candidates, you have a unique position on gun reform. You're proposing that the government should buy back every assault weapon in America, and it should be mandatory. How do you envision that working, especially in states where gun rights are a strong flashpoint?
Yeah, so I'm a parent. I think that we need to treat gun ownership in a very similar way to the way we treat vehicle ownership. It's like, look, you have to take a test and get a license to drive a vehicle, and that could kill people. Guns can kill people too, so we should give you some kind of test and licensing for that too. The hard part, the challenge of this is that there are 300 million firearms in this country. It's like almost one for every man, woman, and child. And there are limited ways you can actually try and reduce that number. So a couple of things I would do is I would have a voluntary gun buyback. Anyone who wants to sell their gun will buy it off you. And I would also offer to upgrade everyone's guns to those signature guns where only you can fire them, turn everyone's gun into a James Bond gun.
Ooh, I like that.
And then we're safer because that gun goes to someone else and they can't fire it.
Yes.
I'm for the legalization of marijuana, remove it from the controlled substance list, in part because our administration of the criminal laws are deeply racist. It's very obvious to everyone. So on April 20th, 2021, I'm going to pardon everyone who's in prison for a low-level nonviolent drug offense.
I like your marketing strategy, 420, baby.
Because it makes no sense to have people in jail for stuff that's legal in some parts of the country. Mm-hmm. And then So I would make tax day into a national holiday. I would call it revenue day. I would have it so that AI tries to pre-fill out your taxes for you. So if you have very simple taxes that are based upon the same info, it just gets spit out for you. And then you'd get a video showing where your money's going, government employees thanking you. And then you can choose where to send the last 1% of your money, being like, you know what, I really want to fund these programs. And then there'd be someone from that program being like, well, thank you for choosing this program. Then you'd get Oprah and Tom Hanks and The Rock in on this video. And then we'd actually not mind Revenue Day because we'd be like, oh, and then I'd invite families from every state to the White House and celebrate our society.
That's real, man.
Instead of treating tax day like this thankless chore that we all dread. We're like, oh, it's like...
You're in favor of abolishing the penny.
Yeah, so we spend more than a penny on each penny.
You realize you just lost Illinois.
We can find another thing for Abe.
That's all I got.
But it's also bad for the environment. You actually have to get the copper out. Like, the pennies don't make any sense. Plus, who wants to be behind that person in line? Am I right?
Mm-hmm.